Hi, my name is Katie Brunner, and this is my final critique of Adam Keyes' paper, The American Nightmare: How Phillip Brooks' Rhetoric Punked Professional Wrestling. And I just wanted to start out by saying I really, really liked this paper. I know I prefaced Chris's a little bit by talking about how I wanted to focus on some of the things that Jim had looked at as far as, moving this paper forward and looking at things that would be important when thinking about publishing or bringing the paper to conferences. So I'm going to look a little bit about how things in this paper coincided with some of the things that I saw in the readings and some of that sort of thing, and then also give you a little bit of feedback as far as some things that you might want to look at or change or think about when it comes to publishing or taking this to a conference. So just to start out, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I saw in Berkowitz's article, and they talk about how they discuss the importance of originality and significance. You make a fantastic argument for this. You really, really justify how, there is a lot of writing about professional wrestling, but not so much in the area of rhetorical criticism. So you really justify the fact that professional wrestling is an area where there might be some great information and some things to look at as far as critical rhetorical practices and things like that. So I think that you justified that well, and the originality of professional wrestling, as you make the argument right in your paper, is just not something that we look at very often. So I think that you definitely fit that that aspect of what Berkowitz was talking about, and they go on further to talk about how good publishable rhetoric introduces us to discourses, practices, and people of which we are unaware. And again, like you really, really did a great job as far as setting up the context of this paper. You talk a lot about people within the WWE that a reader would not necessarily be very familiar with, and do a lot of setup as far as letting us know who these people are, and even if you're not a fan of professional wrestling or anything like that, to make it something that is significant to us, and to understand who these people are, what they mean to professional wrestling, what they mean to CM Punk's text. So I think you do a really, really good job of justifying why we need to know that, and why it's important as rhetorical scholars that we be aware of these people, discourses, practices, etc. So again, I thought you really fulfilled that tenet quite well. And then your method, I think I said this, in your original critique that I did for this paper. I love the idea of method criticism when it comes to this text. I think it's really something that fits very, very well. And I especially liked something that you did on page 21 when you talk about the different characters involved within this text that don't necessarily fit in with American Dream, but are a part of mythic criticism, such as Paul Heyman fitting the old wise man role, or Vince McMahon as the shadow archetype. I thought that was really interesting. Being someone that's not necessarily as familiar with mythic criticism, that was really cool for me to read, and I really enjoyed what you did there. So I just wanted to give you huge kudos there. And now I just want to move on to some of the things that I found that I thought you might want to take a look at, or some little technical things that you may want to think about when it comes to publishing. And first, to start off with, like I said earlier, your justification as far as why wrestling is a really, really good and why it's a useful thing that we need to look at for rhetorical criticism is good. That justification is definitely there, and I might argue that you can take it a little further than you need to. Like, stick with it. It's, you make the argument wrestling it's worthy of this. So I don't think you necessarily need to, to make that statement. Like, you're justifying it throughout your paper. It's good. It's there. One thing that I thought you could do, and this is a small thing because I noticed that you do a lot of justification throughout the application of your method. That didn't quite click until I was reading through the entire paper. But just a small thing you may want to think about justifying the actual specific mythic criticism to CM Punk's text, The American Dream, the specific justification of that method itself. Just a little beforehand as we get into things, just to set up the reader for what they should be looking at. Like I said, you do a really good job of justifying throughout. I did see a place on page 18 where you're talking about the American Dream and how, a lot of times in our society we're inspired by those who are struggling and things like that, and that might actually be a good place to throw in, this is why CM Punk's text exemplifies, the mythic American Dream. Just a thought. A couple technical things that I saw that you might want to pay attention to. I know when it comes to APA, and I should be the last person talking about this with how much Jim has definitely given me some heads up when it comes to my APA citation. I've learned a lot this semester. But when it comes to citing things in APA style, you want to make sure that you're citing authors in the past tense. So I know that there were several times throughout the paper that I saw this, so you may want to just kind of be aware of it. Also, in that same kind of just technical little things, when it comes to citing multiple authors, rather than saying the author and colleagues, just say, list out all the authors the first time, and then the second time you can just say author, comma, et al. ETAL dot, and then the date. So that's just a little something to be aware of. And then one other little thing that I had thought of is it might be really, really beneficial for you to have a specific thesis statement before you go into, talking about mythology and talking about, like, in the first introduction of your paper, just kind of a broad thesis to kind of tell us, what you're going to do, and so that we know what the flow of your paper is going to be. That I found myself kind of just having to go back and remember what you were trying to do. So that might be one way to kind of just get the reader on page with you. And one other thing, on page 14, I saw that this is where you're talking a lot about the context of the WWE, and you're talking about it through McCarro's critical rhetoric and how the environment of the WWE is, it's an environment of domination and things like that, and you're making those claims. You make a lot of really heavy claims as far as, for example, if McMahon favors a wrestler, he will go to WrestleMania. Things like that are very supportive to your argument and things like that. But you want to make sure that you're citing some sort of reference and things like that. I mean, you did some page numbers and things on some of the claims, so I didn't know if this was all for one source or anything like that. So just throw in a few sources in there wherever you got that, just so that the reader knows that those claims are backed up. Yeah, and just actually, while we're on that specific part of your speech, one thing that I had thought about is I wanted a little bit more information as far as McCarro's critical rhetoric. You make the argument that the WWE fits the critique of dominance and things like that, and I think you're right. I thought that was a good connection to make. I think that the reader could have done well with some just a little bit of background as far as what exactly McCarro has to say about the critique of dominance and how that fits what you're going to be talking about. So that might be something to throw in there as well. And then just one last thing that I had thought about, it's in your conclusion. You talk a little bit about, you talk about CM Punk's text being a diatribe, and you chose throughout the entire rest of of your paper to not focus on the diatribe, and I understand. Like I said, the American Dream myth, I thought that was a fantastic method to apply, so I see why you didn't focus on the diatribe. But I would suggest, if you are going to leave that focus out, that probably just leave the entirety of that term out, unless you're going to specifically define it. because you kind of just glossed over it, and I found, well, I know what it is, but someone outside of our class and what we've been reading wouldn't necessarily know what you were talking about. So that's just something to keep in mind. And I think that was pretty much all I had. And I really, really enjoyed reading your paper, as I did all semester. I think this is a great topic, and like I said, originality, definitely there. And I look forward to seeing what you do with this, and wish you the best of luck. All right, thanks.